Hello, and welcome to Pathways to Healing, the Perfect Step podcast. We are your hosts, Cody Norman
and Logan Frye, paralysis recovery specialist at the Perfect Step, also known as TPS.
We are not doctors and are not prescribing anything, as this podcast is for informational purposes and should not be considered legal advice.
We are, however, sharing knowledge and experience that we have gained from working for years with clients in the paralysis community.
The guests on this podcast will include either experts in their respective fields or individuals sharing their unique experiences with paralysis.
Suggestions and advice that we share may affect each person differently, as not one injury or diagnosis is the exact same.
We are hopeful that the outreach of this podcast will allow us to give help and guidance for individuals suffering from paralysis.
We understand that this spread of knowledge is important and takes an entire community coming together.
On this episode of Pathways to Healing, we had Hal Hargrave Sr. on. He speaks a little bit about Hal Hargrave Jr.'s accident and his perspective of being a parent with somebody with paralysis.
He talks about the emotional roller coaster of Hal's accident, as well as his entire recovery process. He also shares the importance of community and coming together during their journey. Stay tuned on Pathways to Healing.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to Pathways to Healing. We're here with Hal Hargrave Sr. Welcome, Big Hal. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me, gang. I got to tell you, really become a fan of the podcast and the information you're putting out. So it's been informative and honored to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thanks for being here.
Absolute pleasure. We're excited to have you on and very grateful for you to take your time and bless us with all the information that you have and share some of your experience.
Well, give it enough. You might be kicking me out of here.
Definitely not. For the viewers who don't know you, because me and Logan obviously have a good understanding, can you give us a generic background of you, your story, and why and how you got connected to the paralysis community?
Never knew I was going to be connected to the paralysis community. But my name's Hal Hargrave Sr. Folks that know the Perfect Step and have been listening to Pathways probably know of Hal Hargrave Jr. In truth and honesty, he's not a true junior. His middle name is different, but we call him Junior. For folks on the corporate campus here, they know me as Biggie and Little Hal is Little Hal. We didn't choose the paralysis community, but it chose us. And I will tell you, it's been rewarding. And maybe as we go through this podcast, I can explain a little bit more about that. And when I say it chose us, it not only chose myself, but it chose a community of people that I never would have thought would be doing this together with all of us together. It's not a me thing. So it's been wonderful to have a collective group that gets brought together through something catastrophic that can find community and do something with that. I have to say also, as I'm sitting here, and I introduce myself, I wouldn't be sitting here without the paralysis community chose my son, chose our family, my wife, who's a saint. So that's our introduction to the paralysis community. I think you're probably going to ask me questions around the injury, but and how we actually came to that. But
yeah. We are, but I think first it's not only important to just tell how admired we are that you mentioned that the community has done stuff for you, but it is our perspective that you guys have just done so much for the community. So we also want to make sure that you know that the things that you guys have done have given us and so many others great opportunities, and we're all very thankful for the things you guys have been able to provide. So
the thanks is shared.
Thank you.
Yeah, first and foremost, maybe we can talk a little bit about the Be Perfect Foundation and how that came about. And speaking of giving back to the community and the community giving back to us at the same time, you said something really great that resonated with me the other day at our general staff meeting. You said, I'm not an I guy, I'm a we guy. And it's about us and we. And that really, it resonated with me because you just seem like such a family person that's about your family and about what you've done with everybody around you, not just with yourself. So maybe you can kind of speak a little bit about that and where that comes from.
Yeah, I think, if we were going to talk about the evolution of the foundation, I can go all the way back to when Hal got injured, and I don't know if you want me to start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's and when I say that the paralysis community chose us, it did, and for those that might get injured tomorrow, they don't know that's coming. But I do remember some poignant moments along the way when we start talking about why was the foundation created. It went all the way back to his injury, obviously him having the injury, and that was the day before. And I remember being at the Claremont Club, and it was a Wednesday night, and Hal was really excited because the weekend before that we had gone down and with him and his buddy Connor had looked at where their living quarters were going to be, how that and an opportunity to go to Long Beach State and try and make the team. He had an opening, he had a spot on the team. It was his to lose. So he was going to go throw that little white ball there. And it was he was so pumped. And so we were at the club, the Claremont Club, and during the summer nights, they, once a week, they'll have a band come in and barbecue. And so we're all out by the pool with friends and family hanging out there. And I remember Hal was working summers for Apex at the time, and he would make deliveries on trucks for us. He'd clean offices. Hal was always a doer. He didn't want anything to be gifted to him. He wanted to earn anything he did, whether it was a spot on a team or the money in his back pocket. Something that always resonated me with Hal. But that night I remember just sitting there, and it was getting a little bit late, and Hal had to drive a steak bed from Pomona up to Las Vegas. And so he's swimming in the pool. He's got a couple buddies with him, and I nudged Lori and I said, "Look how ripped he is." And Hal, I mean, he had the washboard stomach, his biceps. I mean, he was, I said, "Dude, you're a specimen right now. You're looking really good." And he took great pride in the way he took care of himself. And if he was going to make a team, he wanted to make sure he did everything he could to put himself in a position to be worthy of that physical, mental, emotional. He's 17 at the time, but he already had that awareness. But that night, I remembered this vision of him just going, not to pump him up too much because he might be listening to this later, but he was kind of an Adonis. I mean, he was cut, he was ripped. He was confident but wasn't arrogant. Nice guy. And he got out of the pool and said, "Hey, I got to go home. I'm on the road early." And he left, and I just thought, at that moment in time, I remember driving home with Lori from the club at night going, life's really good. Just in that kind of, didn't feel vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like, gosh, one of those moments you go, does it get any better than this? Kids, a night out by a pool, you know? And so next morning I'm at the office, and Hal had been on the road. He had gotten going way early, 4:30 or so, to get the truck and get on the road. And I got a call from him at 6 in my office on my cell phone to say he was in Barstow, and just said, "Hey, just midway point, letting you know I'm in Barstow." I said, "Fine, how you doing?" He goes, "I'm fine." He got a little bit of energy drink, and he said, "I'll call you again, or I'll text you when I get to Vegas." And, you know, I didn't think anything of it. And then about 6:30, I was on the phone. This is where irony comes in, and the irony of him being at the Claremont Club the night before. I was on the phone with our insurance broker at the time, and we were going through our workman's comp renewal, another irony. And I was in this call, and it came over the PA that I had an emergency call I had to pick up on the other line. And so I picked that up, and it was a CHP. And he said, are you the owner of Apex? Do you have a son named Hal? I said, yes. And yes, he said, he's been in a terrible accident. And he gave me his location, which was right off of Newberry Springs Road in the 15. And he said, "Get here as fast as you can." I said, "Is he alive?" And his final words were, "For now." I went, whoa. Instantly jumped in my truck, called Lori, said, "Get out front. I'm going to pick you up. Hal's been in a terrible accident." And she said, wanted to have more information. I said, "Just get out front." Where we were living at the time had terrible cell service too, and I was calling on our cell, so that was added. And at that moment in time, when I was driving to get Lori, there was something told me I could react in a manner that was erratic and just anger, erratic, confused. A peace came over me, and I don't know where it came from. Actually, I do. And that confused Lori when she jumped in the truck. And by the way, the CHP had given us a code when we called back to CHP to give this code. He said, when you start, use this code and call back. And so we did. I had Lori call back, and she jumped in, and she's hysterical. And I was calm, and she goes, I can't believe it. And I said, Lori, we're going to get there. And I'm, got faith here that this, there's nothing else we can do other than drive to the scene. And as you may know me, I'm kind of a motorhead and I like to drive. And I knew I was going to drive fast, and I knew I was going to get there. Lori called the CHP. They had this open line where between the dispatcher and the officer on the scene was giving updates. And I thought to myself, my God, this doesn't seem normal. But again, it'd be another blessing. And so the updates were that they had the jaws of life. They're trying to extract him from the cab. We were getting those little bits of information. Meanwhile, we're on the grade going up. Now we're cresting the top of Hesperia. Yes, he's still breathing. And then it went quiet for about 10 minutes and there was no updates. And that started, even I was starting to get a little bit nervous. Got to Stoddard Wells Road, and I remember the dispatcher came back on and said, turn around and start heading to Arrowhead. He's on a life flighted. And that gave me some calmness, and Lori didn't understand why. And she goes, why is this good? And I said, it's good because he's alive.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting, Lori, as it was getting quiet, we might pull up to a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And so turned around, we drove back down to Arrowhead, and I didn't know how fast I was driving. I just knew I was driving fast, but I was still safe, I think. And I remember pulling up to Arrowhead and pulling up right by the tarmac there where the trauma helicopters come in, and the blades were just coming to, and it was the only helicopter there. So I knew we almost beat the helicopter there. Lori ran right past. She just bulldogged in. She knew the hospital because of working in the medical industry as an ultrasound tech. She blew right past and went right past, and security was yelling at her. She didn't care. I stopped and went through the proverbial 20 questions to, get through the security doors, but finally got through. And there was times in that drive that I remember that same feeling I had that night of, does it get any better than this? That changed. And it really changed when got into the ER room, and that same ripped kid, good tan, had everything going on in that department, was looking up at me, scared as could be. His eyes told the story of, didn't know if he was going to live. He was glad we were there. God, we were too. Glad he was alive at that moment. But then they said, you need to say your goodbyes, and we've got work to do. We prayed with him quickly. And it was tough getting Lori out of that room. Rightfully so.
Sure, it was tough to get out of the room yourself.
Yeah. But I remember as we came out of the ER, we made a 45-minute drive up the hill, made another half-hour drive down the hill, 5 minutes in an ER room, and we came out of the ER doors and went into the waiting area, and the amount of people already there.
The support.
So, sorry.
No.
No, take your time.
So I think about those moments where, life changes in a minute. We can throw out all the cliches and all the proverbial sayings that get said in life at the right times, and at the wrong times, and at the powerful times. But I just remember that moment of seeing family members, my best friend Dave. At that time, Al's girlfriend Kristen and her mom, my mom and dad, Lori's mom and dad, the kids, I mean, just and friends
Mm.
in an hour and a half on a Thursday morning. And with that, I remembered that moment of we'll always be indebted to those people for the calming. Not everybody gets that. And I just thought another blessing. So with that was just these powerful moments in the beginning of what I knew was going to be hopefully a long road. Because at that point in time, we didn't know if the road was going to be short. A few of us prayed, continued to pray. More people kept showing up. And they were able to stabilize Hal, but there was the outlook was still very touch and go. My brother, I was going to say brother-in-law, but he's my brother, Kenny, happened to be in town, who's a radiologist, Lori's brother who lives in Arizona, happened to be there with us and was able to get medical information that we weren't going to be able to get.
Mhm.
And so another blessing. And I think about now and where we're at now, and I don't want to, we'll get to that, I'm sure, in this podcast, how we were blessed through all that. Some people would say, how do you call that a blessing? But the exposure we have now in the community, we realize some alignment that came in that not a lot of people get, that we had to do something with that later. So all those moments were impregnated in my mind. I was able to share those with Hal later, but as Hal went through his journey, and I don't want to steal any questions that you may have, but that journey went from 8 days at Arrowhead. I will tell you another powerful moment in those early days was the third day, where, as you both know, being specialist, what it does to your diaphragm and breathing, and having a spinal cord injury and the ability to be able to push air through and be able to have that active movement or reactive movement. It wasn't there for Hal. And so he had a pneumonia. We had to actually push for him to get him to I'm sorry to say this on a podcast, but phlegm out of it.
Mhm.
He was so congested, and that went on for hours. And I remember at a moment in time, it was about 2:30 in the morning on, I believe it was, I think it was Sunday morning. I couldn't do it anymore. I mean, I was worn out. I was physically worn out, but something kept pushing me. But I called my buddy Dave. Half hour, he's there. So when you think about surrounding yourself with people and community, having those people that are in your corner, showing up at those times, both celebrating, but in those times that you need, my God, we didn't have to ask at all. We never had to ask. Never in this journey have we had to ask. And so get him through that night. And after 8 days, he was released to Casa Clina through my dear friend Greg Half. He and Tommy Serafis, they were able to open doors and make sure there was going to be a door open at Casa Clina. I only knew Casa Clina at that point in time from it being about 200 yards away from Apex at the time on Gary Avenue. I knew it was a powerful rehabilitation hospital, but I didn't know how we were going to get in. They made that happen with some phone calls. And so I remember leaving Arrowhead and getting to Casa Clina, and Casa being a dear partner to TPS now, and such a great community partner, friends of ours there that are in the industry with us all. This calming effect that, again, after on our 9th day being there as a family, but really for Hal, that point in time, he was out of the touch and go. But now the reality was setting in. What was the rest of his life going to mean?
Do you remember the exact moment where he wasn't in the touch or go? Like, you knew for sure that he was going to live and he was going to...
Not the 5th day.
Not the 5th day?
Yeah, and it really had to do with his ability to
Breathe.
Yeah, breathe. And so, you went from, being worried about somebody walking again in paralysis, but then it was breathing, that was going to potentially kill him. And, that was a little bit hard. And all these different moments, going through that journey, were to me, God, the things that impregnated in Lori's mind, in my mind, and even Hal's mind, of opportunities that have come later now to be able to educate and share with others.
So for for you guys, do you remember at what point they said that he did have a spinal cord injury? And from your perspective at that time, what did that mean to you? Because you obviously know a good amount about it now, but back then.
Oh my gosh. It wasn't when we went in the ER and that first 5 minutes. After he got out of the ER and got into ICU, then we knew it was a spinal cord injury. My brother Kenny had told us he's paralyzed, but paralysis comes in many forms and fashions, right? So we know that from stroke. We know that from, I mean, the list can go on, right? TBIs but spinal was finally mentioned when he got into ICU as a family, and as Hal was somewhat coherent, we didn't want to tell him. We just didn't really, other than the fact that he knew he couldn't move. I remember when we were told it was a spinal cord injury, I took an opportunity to go over to a neurologist, his neurologist that was in his care on day 5, and said, he's a quadriplegic. I know that he's got quadriplegia right now. I've just got to ask, and I was fast forwarding, will he ever walk again? And it seems to always be, and as we've gone on this journey in 18 years, everybody goes to that, you know, and I think that's okay. But that's as much as I knew. I wasn't asking about all the other secondary complications. I wasn't asking about everything else that bowel and bladder or anything along that. It was
sensation.
Yeah. I mean, I was going back to, he was supposed to go to Long Beach State and possibly throw a little white ball. Is he going to walk again? And he looked at me and he said, chances are no. And I said, well, and I pressed the neurologist. I said, well, can you give me a little bit more information? He goes, and I loved getting to Casa Clina, where bedside manner actually meant something. Arrowhead, I will not say anything bad. As a trauma hospital, fantastic. Hal got the best care every step of the way. He's had the best care. Some of it just because of where he ended up. But we had doors opened at Casa Clina. But Arrowhead was a fantastic trauma. But at that time, maybe the bedside manner of this neurologist, and it was also the vulnerability I was at. I mean, I was at this point, I was going through a little bit of an angry stage, even though I loved the community be around us. Now it's dad's kicking in, and we're going to fix this. And I just said, can you give me percentages? And he goes, yeah, I'll give you percentages, 1 to 3%. And he kind of said it with this kind of 1 to 3%. Do you want anything else from me? And I just said, okay, we can work with 1 to 3%. At that time, as a dad, the things that were important in life prior to his injury, everything changed. We were a sports family, you know, so nothing wrong with sports. It actually put Hal in the best position for recovery ever, for sure. No doubt in my mind. Anything you do extracurricular, whether it's theater or dance or sports or speech and debate, I don't care. Challenge your mind, your body, your soul to grab onto something. And Hal had done that with athletics. And so as a sports family with Corey and Haley and Bella was newly born, but you know, we were caught up in that. You know, every weekend was spent around that, and the goal setting was around, are you going to make that travel team? Or are you going to, that was in the important things, but all that was not wrapped up as being those parents but it meant something to our kids. So you got behind it, you know, that was an accomplishment. So you wanted to give them, whether it was equipment, whether it was the right personal coach, you know, and it's, I think at that time, I was into it more than I should have been, maybe, or maybe not. I don't know. But I didn't feel the balance that I feel today prior to his injury.
What were some of your major resources that you used during that time when there was a lot of, I'm sure, questions and unknown things during that time? What were some resources that you latched onto in order to get some information out of what just happened?
Boy, I will tell you, this is 18 years ago. We got the best care at Casa Clina, but that wasn't without, this is where we learned about advocacy, and something that we preach heavily here at the Perfect Step of family members being advocates. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm getting emotional, and I don't have a spinal cord injury. But being an advocate for a family member that did, and it doesn't matter if it's cancer, it doesn't matter if it's when somebody needs love and caring, being an advocate for that person is so huge. And my wife is also, she's got a bulldog nature to her. She's also got she's got a way about her that I'm blessed to be married to. She doesn't take no for an answer. I can be careful how I say this, babe. If I'm saying this incorrectly, I do apologize. But she'll push hard for family, friends, any sort of loved human. I mean, she's awesome. And so I think we were pressing for more information without being pestery. And we were in one of the best hospitals in the country, but we were still frustrated. I remember Hal asking a question when a particular individual came in Hal was under this particular person's care, and he ended the conversation for that morning on his checkup. Do you have any questions? And Hal said, yes, I want to know, am I ever going to be able to, now at this point, we're probably a week in to be at Costa. He says, am I going to be able to have kids? And he said, I'm not sure, actually. And I thought to myself, now we're in the spinal cord world. And just thought, that's a valid question. I would think, without giving false hope, there's got to be more to that. Laptops were broken out, iPads were broken out. I mean, we hit the internet between the support and the great support we got at Casa Colina, the power of the internet on what was going on in other rehabilitation hospitals and other countries. It was just, that's 18 years ago. Look at where it's at today. Yeah. But we were getting information, and yes, Hal was going to be able to have kids eventually, right? But it was just, it told us, okay, keep asking the questions, because if we have these questions, other people ask these questions. Nice. And all this was being put back into that proverbial memory bank of ours to hopefully be able to use later. And we didn't even know it was going there. It was just, if we're feeling this. But yeah, that's when we got into Casa Colina, was our first really immersive experience in the neurological
unknown
community. Yes. So we're in a hospital with strokes, TBIs, spinals, ALS. This was before their surgery center was built. So now you go in and you'll see people that are recovering from different types of surgeries. But at that time, it was mainly neurological. And I've got to tell you, there was moments where being there for Hal, first of all, he felt blessed, lucky. I don't really go with luck too much anymore. I think you put yourself in positions. So I kind of, but he was able to look around on the daily basis and go, I'm fortunate. I can work through this. As looking at others, there's somebody always that has it harder than you do. But the most powerful thing that we found at Casa Colina, this goes back to the start of the discussion of the Be Perfect Foundation. Those same people, friends, family, and I've mentioned a few names, there were so many names I could keep mentioning, was, God, the amount of visitors Hal would get. Enter Brian Goodwin and the Goodwin family into our life. We had been there a week, and friends of ours, Claremont, Foothill Communities, and different circles of friends were coming in, and family, and again, feeling very fortunate. They'd have to run people out at the end of the night. And they said, hey, there's a family coming in. Their son just got injured diving in down at Newport Beach, diving in the water. He's at Hogue. He's going to get it transferred in. You guys got to know the Goodwin family. And it was like, help us. Who else do they know? Oh my gosh, yeah, we know so-and-so and so-and-so. And so the Goodwin family, I still remember they showed up on a Friday night. went over, introduced myself to Lewis and Terry. They were there with the Beck and Dams, and there with the Brehos and the Scotts, and I mean, the list goes on. They had a big camp, and they were a hallway over. And I remember walking in at the time, Lewis, they were all joined in hands and praying over Brian. And I just found that to be such a powerful moment. It was 2 days later that they transferred Brian in the room right next to Hal. And because they were both under 18 at the time, they had their own individual rooms with their own private hallway. It became a party scene. I mean, it was again, I was like, thank you, Lord. I mean, what do you keep blessing us with all these, what the time we thought were just small elements. They really played out to be what I thought were just moments that kept us grounded. Our Goodwin relationship, and I've got to mention Lewis and Terry, and of course, Brian. But Brian and Hal, they had a lot of the same friends. And so there was just this, now you've got this army of kids that are 16 to 19 that are coming in. And they had to kick them out. The cafeteria became just a huge, in a lot of ways, Hal and Brian, because they would wheel in there and they had all the attention. But it also kept their spirits up. But the most powerful moments for me, Lewis and I never left the hospital. We slept by our two boys every night. Would be those quiet nights after everybody left. And Lewis might pray over us. We might just talk. Hal and Brian might be, cracking jokes, whatever. But those moments I'll never forget as being part of the recovery. And the comparison was when, again, the foundational, what we saw these opportunities where other people at CASA, some did, but a lot didn't have visitors. Or maybe a visitor every other day, and they were going to do this alone, or they were going to maybe have one loved one at home. And we started thinking about the caregiving aspect. When we were 3-4 weeks in, the first few weeks was just kind of not chaotic because we had all this support. We got 3 other kids.
Newborn?
Yeah. Bella was, Lori, Bella, you'll get mad at me if I'm wrong on this age. You were 2.5 to 3. So playing in volleyball at University of Laverne now. Got Leos. You got Leos. So you got Bella at 2.5 to 3. You have Haley. Haley, I think you were 10. Corey was 16, maybe 17. He was a junior at Claremont High. Accident happens in July. He's in football, kind of paving his own way, stud in football, enjoying it, giving him, that basis for, taking care of himself mentally and emotionally and having something to grab onto with his academics. And all of a sudden, he's going in his junior year and all this is casted upon him. And Haley, and you got young kids. Corey was a little bit older, but they were competing for time. Actually, they never made us feel like they were competing for time. I remember some of those quiet nights or even early mornings where it was just us as a family. And I really felt like even Bella at her young age, we were going to do this as a family, but there was somebody really instrumental in that. Enter Kayla Dewey. And Kayla, we met selling Cutco knives, Kayla, if you remember, if you're listening. And she was a prodigy at Claremont McKenna. She got into Claremont McKenna. If I got the ages wrong, Kayla, you can beat me on the head later. At 16, the ages of 16, she was just brilliant. She was introduced to us from Debbie Freud, and Debbie had introduced us to Kayla, but Kayla instantly before Hal's injury became a part of our family. She had a drawer in the house with her toothbrush, and because she would spend the night, she would study. She'd come over and eat dinner and study and help. Then she was tutoring the kids, and she was already a part of the family. But I remember she was there she had flown home for the summer. Once the injury happened, she instantly flew back. And she instantly flew back because she knew not only did we need her, by the way, she's an ER doc in Rochester, New York right now. Kayla being an ER, she's got this knack she's a fix-it gal, right? She's just, she said, take charge. And God, we were blessed to have her. And I just remembered it was about the third weekend, and she was showing every day with Haley. Haley and Bella couldn't drive, right? Obviously.
Mhm.
But Kayla instantly became a caregiver, a mom. She became the mom. She was our daughter, but she became a mom to those kids. And I thought, oh my God, another blessing, right? Not everybody was getting this. So Kayla was part of she's always been, since she entered selling those cut knives, she was instantly a part of the family, but she became part of our new world of what this was going to look like. So our CASA days, those were early CASA days, the Goodwins, Kayla, just crowds of people, great care. I can't say enough about CASA, and I don't know if you have any other questions around CASA, but I will tell you this. We stayed 63 days there. And when I say we, I slept by Hal, but Hal stayed 63 days. But I'm a wee guy. Remember I slept with a wee guy. Lots of questions, some unanswered. But with the care that Hal was getting, the physical, the OT, and the PT, they were doing a great job. And CASA does, and as we know in this industry, they do a great job of launching to the next continuum of care, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know what that continuum of care was going to be. It was, to us, somewhat non-existent.
Right.
Had a lot of questions. The Goodwins had a lot of questions with us. By the way, I need to say to the Goodwins, thanks. It was where they introduced us to Hillside Church during our stay at Casa Colina. So thank you, Lewis and Terry and Brian, and for that.
There's one thing I want to touch on about the Casa Colina experience, and how you mentioned Hal asked the question, will I ever have kids? And what the practitioner said was, I don't know. And from our perspective, it's sad, but I love that answer, because it's so hard being a practitioner and having a sense of responsibility for a patient or a client. And you're supposed to have all the answers. Sometimes you don't. And it's a very hard thing to, I think, check your ego at the door and say, look, I don't know what the future is going to hold. I don't know, and I don't have the answer. So from that perspective, I love that whoever that was able to kind of do that, and in a sense set you guys up for the road ahead, because that's what the field of neurological recovery is. It's a bunch of unknowns and mysteries, and a bunch of just, I don't know, but we'll find out. And so I kind of wanted to just mention that part. But,
you know what? That's a great segue to where I was going to start speaking next, but I'm glad you went back to that. Medicine is not an exact science, as we know. And when we were going through CASA, boy, they prepared Hal to launch. They really did. And then the unknown was, where are we launching to? And Hal being athletic. Brian, also Goodwin, was athletic. Both had a lot of energy. They needed something more than, they were blowing past the PT and the OT that they were getting at CASA. I don't want to say they were getting bored. They were launching them, preparing them, and creating a great foundation. I also got to say that a shout out to Jeff Beckendam with Team Therapy was also coming in and helping treat Brian, and he would check on Hal. And I think that was just a bonus. Again, one of those blessings that we had that maybe some others didn't. And you just kept going. In the end, when we reflect back, and Lori and I, and little Hal, and Katie, and Haley, and Jake, just the family, right? We start getting around. We're like, what do we have that compared to? I mean, I don't want to go back to the perfect step, because I know we're going to talk about that. But we learned to be advocates. And that was early on. So we started asking, what's this next step going to be? You know, he doesn't need somebody to teach him how to put his shirt on. You know, forget that. Forget the brushing of the teeth. We'll do that at home. He needs something more, and enter Project Walk. And so at the time, Project Walk was in Carlsbad. There were some folks, some practitioners and clinicians that found out we're going to Project Walk. There was the term called false hope. They said, they're probably going to give you a little false hope and take your money. And I remember Terry Goodwin saying this, and thank God, Terry, because this is how she lives, and I love her for this. Is she goes, what do you have unless you have hope? You know, nothing. We need hope. And we've got no information here. We don't know what our next steps are, but we need something. We need something to grab onto. And that was our faith. That was hope. And we needed our energy to be funneled. It had all been funneled in the right direction so far. We weren't going to let it stop. And so we found out about Project Walk on the internet. And then we started the drives. And when I say we, internext person in our life, and Cherie Fisk, another one that, if you're listening, Cherie and Kayla, big hugs to you. We thought, how are we going to do this? Now we got 3 kids. They're in school. Hal's going to go 3 days a week to Carlsbad. It's an all-day affair by the time you drive there and go back. And you know that for people that travel to TPS.
Right.
You know, so it's how do we do this as a family and keep things working as a family? And Cherie entered our lives. And it was like a daughter to Lori and I, like a sister to all of our kids. Her mom and dad are dear friends of ours. That said, I'll take Hal. And now Lori and I still went, and Corey would take him, and Hal had a menagerie of friends that would take him. But that was always a circus if his friends went down there, because there could be some distraction that went on along the way. But it was also,
Sure.
I mean, he was 18 now, you know, he wanted to be a kid too.
Mm-hmm.
So Project Walk was great exposure. And I will tell you that what we got at Project Walk wasn't false hope. God, it wasn't false hope. It was a high performance center where you came in, you felt the energy in the parking lot. And you came in, and it wasn't just energy for those that were injured. It was a community of people that, again, were sitting there going, gosh, we're pretty lucky. I mean, as a family coming in here, you know, on the weekends, if we went down on a Saturday, all of us would go as a family, you know, and, you know, Hal's friends taking him, but just this great energy. Then we started paying attention to the methodology, and what was different. It certainly wasn't snake oil medicine, and it was rooted in repetition. It was rooted in something in you know, clinical, and it was just, I remember the eval. I didn't expect an eval. I thought Hal was just first day was going to go down and start working out. I mean, the precautions they took, the direction they gave, and then the energy, though. You know, people were smiling in there. And so we really got launched in a wonderful way by Casa Clina, and now we're in this new space that was geographically challenging, but it was the space that God put Hal, the family, Brian Goodwin with his family, and but the challenge of geography came in, and from there, I don't want to say normalcy started setting in, but taking Hal, kids are in school, and this little bracelet appeared, the Be Perfect Foundation. And that was given to Hal and I think Hal has told this story on the podcast. So I don't want to be too long-winded, but his buddy Sky Severance, who played baseball with Hal at Claremont High, and they had gone and seen the movie Friday Night Lights in Hal's junior, I believe his junior year, might have been his sophomore year, but on his Letterman's jacket he had the Be Perfect quote, and it was about being true to your friends, putting your all into everything you're doing. Basically, don't live life short, because you owe that to the people that have supported you. And I'm paraphrasing. And he had these bracelets made up for Hal, and we had them on there. And Hal started there. This is now going into Thanksgiving. So Hal's been there a month or two. And during our time at Casa, people kept asking, what else can we be doing? He said, we don't need any more meals. We didn't know what 5 years was going to be from those questions, right? We didn't know even what 6 months was going to be, but people kept saying, we got to be doing something more. We're like, we're fine. Just being here, keep praying, you know, do us a favor, go down and pray the hallway for that family. Go smile at that gentleman that, you know, is in the courtyard in his wheelchair. And it was neat watching, as a community of friends and family members, how that happened at Casa, that it was kind of just neat to see between the Goodwin family and the Hargrave family, of our friends and family members. It's just kind of good energy, you know, of just, but again, back of our mind, what do we do with this? We got to do something with this. This can't go to waste. So we're at Project Walk. I had taken Hal. He had met a gentleman by the name of Brian O'Neill. Brian O'Neill was an electrical contractor, had bought a recent home in, Brian, help me with this. I think it was Marietta. raced motocross as an adult, pretty stinking good at it. Was on his spinal cord came from Glen Helen on a practice, not in a race, but on a practice. And was at Project Walk. That from the first day Hal met him, there was something. They're separated by age, by if I remember right, 15 years, but there was this connection. Maybe it was even 20 years. But there was this instant connection from Hal to Brian, and us to his wife, and their newborn son. And so a few weeks goes by, and every time they had the same schedule, so they were always seeing each other there, and it was just high-fiving and all this stuff, and just great energy. Both athletic dudes, right? And Brian was starting to take steps. So he'd been there 6 months prior to Hal. He was starting to take steps. And, as you know, in the world, we never promise anybody's going to walk, right? But when somebody does, it can be, especially he was a quad. He was a high quad. And so for him, the steps were huge. And Hal looked at that as like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So it was the week later, it was right before Thanksgiving, and Hal was saying his goodbye to him. I'm with him, and he said, hey, Brian, what are you guys doing for the holidays? And he goes, trying to figure it all out. And he goes, okay, well, I'll see you next week. And he goes, no, you're not going to, I'm done. Hal said, you're done? He goes, yeah, we ran out of money. He said, what do you mean you ran out of money? He goes, can't afford it. We're going to lose the house. He said, Hal, it's about putting food on the table. I don't know if we can put a turkey on the table. So I'm listening to this, and I said, all right, let's go, Hal. I had my truck, and I remember it's kind of a high lift. I'm lifting him up into my truck, and he's fidgeting. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, get me back in my chair. Get me back in my chair. I said, what? And he, bladder problem? He goes, no, just get me back in my chair. Leave me alone. He was very agitated. This whole conversation with Brian had him really stirred. And so I put him back in his chair, and he was barely pushing at that time. All of a sudden, this guy's pushing like a mother. I mean, he's just, I'm going, where are you going? He goes, just follow me. And he goes up to the front receptionist. He says, Brian O'Neill. He goes, yeah. He goes, is he on the schedule next week? She goes, no, he can't. They're done. She did say he couldn't afford. She goes, no, he's not on the schedule for next week. And literally he did this. The Be Perfect Foundation will keep him on the schedule. And I went, wow. So he turns around, doesn't even say anything to me. He says, let's go. So we get him back in the truck, load him up, start. We're quiet. We're not saying a word. In that drive, you go down San Marcos Boulevard and you can get on the 78 and the 15, and we're just getting on the 78. And I said, if we do it right. So I never had a doubt of that. She goes, Dan, all those people from Casa to Arrowhead to in here, they keep saying, what else can we do to help? I just found something. That was the birth. Sorry, but I was getting a little emotional.
No, that's powerful.
It is.
It's very moving.
Yeah.
It's actually the first time I'd heard that story.
Yeah. Brian's not with us any longer. Brian passed a few years ago, which is just so unfortunate in this world when we talk about treatment and world-class facilities like Casa Colina or TPS or Craig or Brian had the unfortunate situation to end up in a terrible nursing home. And I know we don't want to deep dive into that, but I just think about it's a reminder of how important care is and making sure both our healthcare systems got to get better, but again, advocating for those that need help. So to you, Brian, love you, brother.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I'm sure there's so many other stories that are similar to that where the people have been helped that we have just also never heard of and that have been attached to Be Perfect to this day. And there's so many selfless people in that Be Perfect committee. And man, shout out to all of the people in Be Perfect committee that are there now and that have been there before in the past. And it's just
amen to that, brother.
It's insane.
Yeah,
You guys have it is. And you guys, as an Army, now that we gratefully get to be a part of it, just has helped the community and so many individuals that it's so impactful, and there's not really much you can say, but get emotional about it because it just changed lives.
Yeah.
And it, in a sense, provides that hope that you were talking about. If you couldn't do X, Y, Z to be able to be the one who provides hope, just helping Be Perfect because they're doing it. So thank you for
Absolutely.
helping be a part of that.
I'll accept that thanks on behalf of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Welcome to the Be Perfect Foundation, a beacon of hope for those living with paralysis. We're a nonprofit organization on a mission to make a difference in the lives of hundreds of fathers, mothers, siblings, and friends. We provide direct financial and emotional aid. From medical necessities to guidance and support, we're here to help individuals on their road to recovery. With nearly $10 million raised and a 100% volunteer staff, your support goes a long way. Visit BePerfectFoundation.org to donate or find out how you can get involved. The Be Perfect Foundation, changing perceptions daily.
How long after when the Be Perfect became a thing and Be Perfect became a nonprofit organization, how long when after that started did they start doing workouts in the racquetball court over at
Yeah, I'm glad we're going there. And I think about chronologically,
yeah.
How, the direction we've been given through faith, through prayer, through again, friends and family and community. I remember Mike Alpert and not remember Mike. Of course, I remember you, but there was a moment he was sitting at Casa Clina and he didn't really know Hal that well, but his daughter Justine did. Justine and Hal had graduated, so she was there visiting, and she said, "Dad, you need to come with me." And Mike knew that Hal was a gym rat at the Claremont Club. He knew we were members. He knew he wanted to help, and I remember him saying to me at Casa Clina when he left that first time he visited, he was taking everything in, but we had a moment when he was leaving. He says, I need to do something to help. We want to do something to help. I don't know what that is, but he was a member of our community at the Claremont Club. He's a workout fiend. There's got to be something we can do here. And he goes, I don't know what that is. And I said, Mike, believe me, we're going to tap back into that comment. And that was in line with a lot of people saying, what can we do? What can we do? What we can do? And at the time, we're like, we're looking at the internet. We're doing this and that. Again, we didn't need meals anymore. It's like feed other people. It's just be here and just keep supporting us and keeping the strength. And we'll keep advocating. And so we get down to the Project Walk and Brian O'Neill and that whole story and the birth of the Be Perfect Foundation. And during that time down at Carlsbad, Hal did a great job of, he really became a disciple of the methodology of neurological recovery. He knew at that point in time that his call to action was do something with what you've got on your plate. Not only help yourself, but now you've told other people you're going to help others. And what could that possibly be? So he had the owner of, again, another alignment. The owner of Project Walk worked out Hal 3 days a week. And there was something that Ted Dardinsky and Hal connected on. Ted, I don't know if you're listening to this, but if you are, thank you. Between you and your wife, you were just great support to our family and to many families. You were a maverick in the industry when you look at taking what people thought was just working out and really being able to create a discipline and an educational pathway to neurological recovery. And because of that, Hal was able to feed off of you, Ted. Sorry, I'm talking about in third person here a little bit, but Ted, you educated Hal, and he was a sponge. And so Mike Alpert got wind of where we were going and said, well, this is ridiculous. You're driving 3 days a week. And said, there's got to be something we can do. And he said, why don't we, I've got this crazy wild idea. And he said, we can take a racquetball court and we don't need them all. He goes, actually, we probably do, but we're going to help some other folks. And let's start with Hal. And what do we need to do to get this started? And we're like, whoa, this is a lot. But remember, Hal's been a sponge. So he's thinking, okay, I've been educated. So we approached Project Walk and said, hey, is it possible that we could bring a few trainers down from the Claremont Club? And they had a train the trainer program also, but this was going to be more in depth and more immersive. And they said, absolutely. They said, but if you do that, and you're going to have a facility up there, maybe we can talk about some sort of partnership. And so Project Walk Claremont came into existence, all with the vision of Mike sitting there, visiting Hal, going, I got to do something. So racquetball court, Mike, I think probably pushed, I know he pushed against the grain of some ownership at the Claremont Club because it wasn't revenue generating at the time. You know, you're going to give up real estate space for a recovery of an injury that doesn't have a high population. At the time, they had a living well after cancer program. They had an obesity program, but spinal cord, you know, like how many people get injured? You know, we knew all the stats by then, but certainly the greater population in the Claremont Club did it. But he took a chance, and here we are today. But with that chance, it started with Hal and Brian and one other in the program. So Brian didn't have to drive from Rancho Cucamonga. He started coming, instead of 3 days a week, he was coming 1 day to Claremont. Then Hal and him both had switched to 1 day to Claremont, and then 2 days there, and then became 2 days to Claremont, 1 day there, and then full-time at Claremont. Ran out of space from that racquetball court very quickly. And then Mike was able, there was some lease space that the leasee was leaving. He was able to make a performa work where we were able to go into that space, which was another, Mike, if I'm wrong on these footages and you're listening, I'm sorry, but it was around 3,500 feet. Then in that space, we were starting to get introduced to, people were asking us about gait training with other neurological disciplines. So when you start talking about our challenges, so stroke came into the program and ALS, and it was educating ourselves on neurologically and gait patterns. And I'm not specialist like you both are. And so if I'm a little bit wrong on some of the terminology, but that we knew there were so many similarities that, and Hal was becoming more immersed in the education. You know, when you start talking about anatomically and from the kinesiology approach, and then just, again, it kind of goes back to being a gym rat too, right?
He's a sponge.
Yeah. And so he was taking this in and realizing at that point in time when we were at the Claremont Club that if we're going to, it was always, if you remember when I said about the foundation, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. I want to go back to that comment. What I meant by that comment, and I'm sorry, I broke away from the perfect step and be perfect foundation, even though people think they're synonymous. They are different. One's a for-profit, one's a nonprofit. And I knew foundationally, if we were going to do this, first of all, we were going to do it with, we're going to call on the support of all those that said, what else can we do to help? Now we gave them something to do to help. But at the forefront of that is we were going to be accountable back. If we were going to start this, we were going to be accountable back to every dollar that was raised, accountable on where it went. We were going to tell stories on where it went. We were going to make sure we led with gratitude. And just immerse people in communication. And I, at that point in time, I had a little bit of exposure to some other foundations, some that are wonderful and great, but others that I thought, man, there's an opportunity here to tell your story a little bit more, to let your donors know how much you appreciate, and then also let them share in the differences that those dollars were making. And then foundationally, from a business standpoint, I wanted to make sure, and when I say business, but foundationally, you know, corporately and being a good corporate steward, foundationally, it's an education for us. We never had a nonprofit. But I took that on my shoulders, let Hal and Lori, my mother, who's Katie, who's treasurer, let them, they were the doer side of it. I was more on the business side of that, but it was that accountability factor back. And I say that because when we got into the perfect step, Hal also said, okay, because as Project Walk Claremont was growing and we were taking on strokes and ALS, Project Walk Carlsbad was starting to diminish. They were losing folks in the program. In what got in the way, and could be some people, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people hearing this, but there could be some people that will be listening to this. And so I want to say with the utmost respect, they set us up at TPS for success today. But what they were really challenged with was not the treatment. They were challenged on the business side of it. And so the business side got in the way, as well as, I'm going to say it, a little bit of greed. And that's unfortunate. And that's not a comment to the Dardinskys that started it. It was for others that came after them. So that was a little unfortunate. But so Carlsbad shut down and Claremont continued to grow. And when we say grow, for those listeners right now that are active in the program, both those that are being treated and our spinal friends and our stroke friends, but all the families listening, it is bittersweet when somebody wheels or walks through our door for treatment. We are so happy you have a place to come to, but we're so bummed out we even have to see you.
Very true.
And so with that, Hal immersed himself as a sponge, the treatment, the clinical side, the continuing education, trademarking, really getting behind copywriting, your curriculum, his networking with other peer organizations took off. He was doing more public speaking and exposing the perfect step, not only him getting exposed, but exposing the perfect step to other folks around the country and the world, as that matters, and getting a confidence that for those that said a high performance exercise based, what we call ABT, activity based therapy centers, they give you false hope. Yeah, I laugh at that.
Yeah.
And so he dove into that. I continue to dive on the business side of it and have supported that way. And it's been a really, really good partnership when it comes from that.
Are you or a loved one living with paralysis and searching for a path to recovery and hope? Look no further than The Perfect Step. Our unique exercise-based recovery programs have helped clients with conditions like spinal cord injury, stroke, Parkinson's, and more. With our approach, many clients experience improved function, reduced medication, and even freedom from wheelchairs. But we're not just a program. We're a community of support. You'll meet peers who understand your journey, along with specialists dedicated to your recovery. Visit us today at theperfectstep.com. The Perfect Step, where recovery begins.
My next question would be something that you continuously mention is the families. And some people might wonder, oh, well, why did we have you on here other than the fact that you were a part of obviously starting the Be Perfect Foundation. And we know from our perspective that you do a lot for the community, and TPS would not be here without you, and we obviously wouldn't be here without you. But something that a few other people on the podcast have mentioned is when a spinal cord injury happens or a diagnosis or whatever it may be, it doesn't just happen to the individual. It happens to the whole family. Mm-hmm. Can you attest to that, and can you kind of share a little bit of your perspective?
Yeah, no, it does. And the we factor comes in. And what, again, another blessing we had is Hal recognized that too. Most people that know Hal know that he cares for himself, cares for others before he cares for himself. He just leads with that every day, and always tell him that's great until it's not great, and he's doing a good job of taking care of himself also. But anybody that goes through a catastrophic injury, and I'm saying anybody, I think in the end, nobody wants to be a burden on anybody. And so Hal didn't want to be a burden on us, and he taught us so much life lessons on his family, on how we were going to, the we word comes in, do this together. He made us feel he never had a pity party. We were blessed with that. Hal never fell into a deep state of depression. I'm bringing up all these because these elements happen. Right. And we kept saying, God, thank you. And so he stayed strong. And through that, was with him staying strong, his eyes were wide open to opportunities on, okay, what's going right? What can we capture? Something Mike Alpert exposed us to, and thank you, Mike, for doing this. When we were at the Claremont Club, he recognized that also. And so Mike afforded, if we were there coming in as a family, Hal would go into workout. We would be able to go to workout swim at he treated the whole family there. Go get a massage, have a workout, go get your hair done. Your son, your daughter, your loved one will be in here with us for a few hours. You go take care of yourself. And Mike's a huge proponent of exercise as medicine, as well as Dr. Bob Salas, who has taught Hal so much and our family so much. Thank you for that to both those gentlemen. But we recognized that. And we also recognized that as a family unit when we went through CASA, that being able to have our family there with us during all this was huge. And so when you talk about the perfect step now and what's been built out here, and you look at the services that are provided, when you start talking about Jenna and the medical therapist and with her team of therapists over there in treating the mental health side, when we start talking about chiropractic and massage therapy, right across the parking lot from us here, when you talk about a facility now that has a recovery room. That recovery room is not just for our injured, but for the entire able-bodied population as well as our challenged folks. And so that's the mindset of this wellness community, because we were the benefactors of that. That started with all the way from CASA all the way through. We were treated in that fashion. I don't know if that completely answered your question.
No,
Cody.
yeah. And it shows, I think, from our perspective, a little bit of where this whole idea came from, of trying to treat everything in one place and allowing for individuals who are caring for those to also get treatment at the same time.
Absolutely.
Because in order for somebody who has an SCI to go through a successful day, a lot of the times you need a healthy caretaker or a healthy caregiver. And so trying to make sure that all of them are in their best state of mind is crucial for not only them, but for the person they're taking care of.
I'll tell you, when you go to caregiving in your podcast with Christy and listening to her talk and somebody that's been in, call it the industry, but just part of this, she's exposed for many years of caregiving for, I think her first gentleman was also a spinal, if I'm not mistaken. But she's got a gift, but it is, I don't have to say this to Katie. I don't have to say this to my wife, Lori. I don't have to say this to any of my kids. We've all been a part of the caregiving. Yeah. But I will tell you, along the way, we've, again, been really fortunate with Hal. God, he's got so much gratitude in him that it's never a burden. This is how we're doing life. Mm-hmm. And for those that are listening and those loved ones that are coming into the building, yeah, it's tough. Believe me, I see folks that may be outside, just they're asleep in their cars, and not just caregivers. It can be family members. You can just see the exhaustion on them, or they may come in and try and get a workout in and do get a workout in, or some that will go out and sit in the massage chairs up on the mezzanine. But you can just see it can be very taxing. And so caregivers and family members taking care of themselves through this journey are equally important, because those that need help, they need us to stay strong. And so setting this campus up with that environment is something that we learned from Mike and the Claremont Club, and we're trying to replicate. And I think we're doing a pretty stinking good job with you guys on the team here that to give that environment that's electric. When we talk about the campus improvements here and what's happened between Apex and here and that, I'll kind of fast forward a little bit. Things were going along wonderful at the Claremont Club, and that stinking 2020 hit and COVID hit. Another pivotal moment for everybody in the world. And I think at that point, I go back to that night at the club watching Hal swim, thinking, doesn't get any better than this. And I think about the last 18 years. There's been so many great moments too. But through that, the resiliency, to use the term resiliency, and pivoting that you do as a family, the times you have to laugh on when somebody has a bowel or bladder problem and you're out, maybe at a fine dining restaurant and, sorry, crap happens. It's just, we roll with it. And Hal's given us the ability, and I know our good friends, the Goodwins, Terry and Lori are good friends. They have a group together called the Quad Moms that get together they have as a support group, and now they're just friends and they get together and just do that side of life. But the stories that they have learned to laugh at now, that you have to laugh to get through it. And so many in that come in under our roof here at the Perfect Step, they're doing that daily. And so being around a community of folks that can share in that, and maybe learn to laugh and smile through it, that it's going to get better in how you handle it. Doesn't work every day, believe me. But knowing you're part of a community, that community atmosphere we have here inside. COVID hits, and we all know what happened. Claremont Club was not able to stay open, and all of a sudden we're forced to make a decision what we're going to do. And the building we're sitting in today, in March of 2020, was designed to do something completely different. And so pivoted again, and Hal came to team down at Apex. We were going through our own challenges at Apex at the time through COVID. So we had labor available, but a team at Apex, when challenged with what can we do to help, it wasn't even a question. And in 12 weeks, we transformed this building into being able to handle 120 folks on the daily, 120 in the program rotating through today. It was another leap of faith, and thank you God for the support through that. We said yes, and then it was kind of that.
What did I sign myself up for?
Yeah, but when you have a good support around you, it's back to that community behind you. And at this time, enter Apex really into the equation. That it's going to be on what we call our small little corporate campus here on Indigo Court that you guys we're all a part of together. I thought this could be a real opportunity to have. Who would ever think a wellness environment and a national general contractor with a technology and professional service side could coexist in the same space? And we're not all under the same roof, as you know, but we're all very close.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's really worked out beautifully. And so you got down here, opened this in 12 weeks. We had people working out. And then, of course, over the next year, the improvements continued. But the similarities that I see between, some people will say, there's people that will come to Apex, and there's somebody will say, you need to go over and look at the perfect step while you're here. And you see us touring people through from time to time, because it's like, what does the perfect step do? What's that affiliation to Apex? Well, there's truly no affiliation. Well, wait, no, the signs are the same. And we kind of downplay that because they come in and said, oh my gosh, we knew that you provided, you're a national general contractor. You have your profession, that's what they think we do. And then they see what a community has created here when they come in, and they get a sense of breadth of what our culture is at Apex when we start talking about the philanthropic side, community, supporting one another. And somebody would say, is there any similarities when you start thinking about culturally? And I'll say, what we do at Apex, and, Logan, you mentioned earlier, remember we were speaking as a group a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned this, and it may sound a little corny, but at Apex we renovate buildings, we restore building assets, we bring things back to life. When we start talking about bricks and mortar, that's on our GC side. On the technology side, we're innovative, we're cutting edge, we're bringing immersive experiences, both in the visual sense and the data and metric sense, to life for our clients' properties. So we're innovative. We're restoring properties. And I think about what takes place under this roof. Is a building restoration? No, it's a body restoration. It's a mind restoration. It's a heart restoration. It's a soul restoration. To say you guys are innovative is an understatement. You're creating pathways. You're creating neurological change through, sometimes it could be just simple advancements in the way that you're manipulating a particular client friend of ours, right? And you learn from that. It's very similar to what we do at Apex. We're just doing it on bricks and mortar and for multi-site industries around the country, and you guys are doing it here on Indigo Court and in this building. So those similarities on restoration, it may be a little bit of a stretch, but it works for me.
No, I definitely think it works.
Yeah, and but the sense that our folks at Apex, they don't just pull on Indigo Court. I know for a lot of them, it gives them a sense of purpose. And the collaboration we've had lately, we've done some additional buildings, or have added some space in here. And you'll see folks from Apex in here conducting meetings, and it's just to have this shared space. And it's no different than when family members come in, just being a community. And again, I want to give Mike, I've mentioned you a couple of times, but you're worthy again of another time. He taught that at the Claremont Club, where he had a very small share of the membership saying, there's somebody in a wheelchair working out with me, kind of, is this going to happen a lot? He goes, yeah, I hope so. I hope it happens a whole lot more, and, working out alongside it. That's why I love this new shared space that we have, and so this recent renovation, and then recognizing again the wellness side of it, where our folks at Apex can take advantage of mental health therapy, they can take advantage of massage, and so it's create this great, what I think is a great environment, the outside wellness park. So it's been fantastic.
I think back and forth, we both rep so many of the benefits of the opportunities at Apex to be able to go eat some of the food when you guys have the food over there, or be able to go look at the facility and tour the facility in the car museum, and you guys to come over here and use the workout facility downstairs. And there's just so many things going back and forth, and how we're so intertwined together. And I think that's just like another way to show that like there's so much community here that has been provided.
I agree.
And
It's been created.
Yeah, it's been provided and exactly created, but not provided for so much of the community that gets through the benefits from it. And not only the community that comes to the Perfect Step, or that, the partnerships that you guys have Apex, but also the employees that get through the benefits too. Like us being able to get to work like a place like this has just been
Blessing.
It's an amazing. Yeah. So those things being connected is, it never escapes my mind. And I love seeing people in here from Apex and learning about what they do also.
Sure.
And then also having that meeting that we had the other day of learning about even more about what you guys do for the community. It was awesome too.
You're a business owner in the retail, restaurant, hospitality, or petroleum industry. You have ambitious plans for multi-site remodels, refreshing your brand, and integrating the latest technology, but you need a partner you can trust to bring those visions to life. Enter Apex Imaging Services. With a legacy dating back to 1949, we've been at the forefront of innovation and transformation for over 7 decades. From licensed general contracting in 48 states to cutting-edge tech solutions, we've got you covered. Our services include everything from interior and exterior refreshes, open and closed remodels, and technology integrations, to 3D virtual tours, data analytics, and cloud security for Fortune 500 companies. But it's not just about what we do, it's how we do it. We're dedicated to quality, value, and efficiency. We listen to your needs, tailor solutions to your goals, and deliver results on time and on budget. So whether you're planning your next remodel, seeking to enhance your brand, or embracing the digital age, Apex Imaging Services is your partner for success. Visit apeximagingservices.com to learn more. Apex Imaging Services, your vision, our expertise.
One thing I've learned, especially in the last 18 years, being connected to something that has purpose, and a great moment for me as being one of our leaders over at Apex was this past Giving Tuesday, which is it's a big thing for you guys. It's a big thing for us at Apex, and we, the collaboration that happens, but we had over 30 charities that we supported at Apex this past Giving Tuesday, in our shared giving program that we did. When we built this space here and we put it on the Apex campus, and we decided, hey, a group of us said, yeah, let's do it. Let's bring the Perfect Step here. It's grown. You guys have taken on more space. And again, it's bittersweet, right? That we need more space, but it's needed. It's supported. We also know, folks, that not everybody is having a neurological catastrophic injury. There are other challenges out there when we start talking about life events that so many of us are exposed to, with cancer, with, just the different, I can go on and on. I look at St. Jude's. I could keep going on with hospitals after hospitals, and the different, with addictions, River Edge, in Lori and I and Hal and others, we've gotten exposed to so many other wonderful charities out there through this just mission of being on. I think I mentioned Jeff Beckendim, what he's doing with compassion therapy and his work in Africa, and it just goes on and on. And so not only do we want our team members to be exposed and collaborate and be able to come under this roof and work out, but then also be a part of supporting. If we at Apex, if you have a meeting over here, whoever's having a meeting over here can allocate 1 hour of therapy to the client of their choice. And so it's those small little things, but also letting our team members know we want to also support anything they may be exposed to that they get behind. Autism, or the list goes on. And so seeing that this past Giving Tuesday, it resonated with me that whether it's be perfect. It's something else I go back to. Not, somebody said, I can't do everything. And I said, I remember that from somebody one time said, I can't do everything you guys are doing. I said, yeah, but you can do something. Everybody can do something. Whether it's, I learned that just going through volunteering, sweat equity, teaching, consulting, just the smallest elements, being there for somebody, caregiving for a day, whatever it may be, somebody's got it in them. They can do something. And foundationally, what we look for is, what is that something? What can you challenge somebody with that they would feel rewarding in any form or fashion? It's not just about giving money. We have found that out entirely. It's not just about giving money. Certainly that's welcome, but providing educational services, transportation services, the list goes on and on and on. And so seeing that flourish when people, okay, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I remember Jason Smoot, and I think you guys know Jason.
Absolutely.
Yeah. God, what a good dude.
Yeah. Yes.
Love you, Jason. Started reading to children up at the Claremont Club, just kids' books. And the kick out of that the kids got from Jason, coming and reading the multiple times a week that he would do that. He could easily do that. It was just, what can you read? Yeah. Well, and somebody working the front counter at the club. The same thing with folks that come over at Apex from TPS and work with us over there. So it's been a great journey when you start opening, when people realize, man, I can go through that door, or I can open that door. Those have been some blessings also.
I think the selflessness is infectious, and it just provides so much humility, I think, to everybody here. Yeah. And it's continuous. Yeah. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep growing larger and larger, and we're going to help as many people as we can. So
absolutely. Amen to that.
I always go back to thinking things are successful when you're doing them for someone else. A lot of the times it's so much easier to do something when you're doing it for the person next to you. And so that's kind of what I think about when, I look at Apex or I look at TPS. Why are they successful? Because they're not doing it for the financial benefits or for this reason. It's to help somebody else. It's to help somebody or something get better. And so that's kind of just where my mind goes to when I think about those things, and I think about the connection between the two businesses is they were both built and created not for personal benefit, but to help something or someone else get better. And
I'm glad you brought that up, Cody. I'm on my 44th year at Apex, and I'm still having a ball. And this year of 2024, we always have a new mission statement for the year. So we have our overall mission statement, but this year it was about people, process, and systems, and in operational excellence. And what does that mean in professional development? And I didn't mention profit. I didn't mention, certainly we want to grow. But when you have a foundation set in those principles, growth will come, right? And so pushing through that, I think it's the same thing that happens under the TPS room when you start talking about operational excellence and professional development and giving opportunities, not only to staff, but the ones that we're caring for. So we're pushing hard on that, but there's got to be buy-in also. So when you're treating a client, you need them to be bought in, right? And not only do you treat physically, but you're treating emotionally and mentally, and sure, at another level than we do at Apex. But we have our challenges in our industry too. And so, somebody could be going through something at home, but getting a cohesive group that's behind something, teaching, developing, and then providing it in a manner where you can do it in an excellent fashion. I mean, you both are athletes. You have a curriculum that you follow here, and you want to exceed those for the benefit of your clients.
Absolutely.
It's no different than how we do things at Apex. No different. And you reap the benefits from seeing somebody recover, reducing secondary complications, watching them come through because they want to be here, smiling, right, staying in touch with them, creating community. And we try and do some of those same things as Apex. Are we challenged? Oh yeah, we're challenged. Are we getting better? Heck yeah, we're getting better. And it's the same thing here, because I'm sure there's days where you go, gosh, can we be doing more? Yeah. And that's what you want. You don't want to just settle. Yeah. I can tell something that's neat and infectious when you come through the building here. When I walk through, and usually I'm in my zone, right? I'm in the biggie zone, or we're heading to a conference room. We're usually late for something. Is again the energy that is created in here, the atmosphere that's created in here. I didn't say that, but when we got exposed to Casa Clean, a great acute care hospital that launched us, when we go and visit those that are newly injured, and I should say when my wife does, she's such a saint. She's got such a gift to be able to, I'm the fix-it guy. And Lori, I want to fix things quick. And Lori she's got a slower approach and just a much more caring. I think I'm caring, but we just do go about it differently. And maybe it's male, female. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
I see something broken. It's like, man, come on. Cliff notes. Let's get this sucker done.
It's definitely the male female. I think.
Yeah. But watching you all here in this culture, but when this vibe that you get, you guys are crazy with the monitors everywhere and the music and this and that, but it's electric. And that was something that we wanted to make sure institutional. We needed that when we were at Arrowhead. We needed that a little bit when we were at Casa Colina. Mm-hmm. But that next continuum, man, there's got to be a vibe of energy and improvement and something that's electric when you come through. And hopefully you pick that up when you go over to Apex's offices too. And that's something we want this environment to be inviting. Hey, it's still work to be done. We're still going to grind and we're still going to get our business done. But that's something I hope people feel when they're on, whether it's the Apex portion of the campus or on the TPS side.
All right, Vicki, I have one more question for you.
Sure.
And it's one we kind of talked about a little bit before. If you were to look back, which day would you say has been more impactful in your life? The day that Hal was born or the day of his accident?
That's such an unfair question, I think. I could try and hit this one down the middle, but I won't do that to you. Hal was our firstborn. Bella, you're our lastborn. I love you, sweetie. I love Bella just as much as I love, the first and the last, and Corey and Haley in the middle, and all of our extended kids that have come under our roof that we're blessed to have. When Hal, when he talks about his July 22nd, 26th date, sorry, buddy, 2007, and his new living day, when he started, it's a celebration on that day. It is not a downer day for Hal. And when that first started happening, it was a little bit tough on me going, we've had as a family with the community support, with all the support, and from Hal having the mental fortitude to push through this with the utmost strength. It's given us the ability to keep our chins up and focus on what can we do to make a difference rather than wallow and pity and this and that. And believe me, it is tough on folks with catastrophic injuries. It is tough. But when I look at his July 26th date rather than his August 14th date, I think he would want me to say his July 26th date, because that was born a day that God created a whole new pathway for him on what his mission in life was supposed to be. What I know as a family we have grabbed onto as friends and family and supporters, and given a direction that we've embraced. Certainly if he wasn't born on August 14th, we wouldn't be able to talk about July 26th. But in answer to your question, I know he would say July 26th. His DNA right now, the makeup of Hal is from July 26th. I think the foundational elements that he had. Remember the kid at the Claremont Club that was ripped, that was going to go through that little white ball that taught him so much about goal setting and discipline and friendship and bonding. And God had set him up for July 26th. Certainly set him up for July 26th. People ask me, not you, not others. It's usually somebody would say, "Hey, you ever hope he's going to walk again?" Well, what kind of question is that? I know you guys hear it in the building sometimes when questions get asked, right? So why would you ask that? Or maybe you're out in public with one of your clients, right? And the craziness that oh my gosh, I remember Hal getting the first book from Christopher Reeve was "I Am Me." I'm still me. I'm still Christopher Reeve. Yes, I might have a trach in, but up here, I'm still me. And so all those are the things that we got introduced to. And so when I think about Hal still being him after July 26th, he's still him, but he's a new version. Somebody that he has the ability to rally people. July 26th.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that wasn't a very fair question, but
it's thought provoking. That's for sure. Yeah.
We do have one more question for you.
Okay.
At TPS, we've been focusing lately on people who have been reinventing their life. So what is one way that you have seen somebody or you have reinvented your life on your own?
Ooh.
I don't want to steal the answer from you, but maybe you could just talk about how you reinvented yourself as a parent.
Yeah, I think I can answer both. I'm 38 years married to me, the most beautiful woman in the world. I'm lucky for anybody that's going to put up with me. There's a lot of folks that go through the catastrophic world and their marriages don't last. It's tough sometimes, certainly I don't want to say easier. It's just different 18 years later. But I look at, so thank you, Lori, for that. Blessed with 3 other kids and extended kids that a lot of people don't get that still live close by, that have pushed through Hal's injury. We've done this as both a immediate family and an extended family. I'm blessed with my mother who has stayed by Hal's side. I'm blessed with my father-in-law, who's the most concerning individual. I'm just blessed with all these people. And I think through those lessons, God, the old "it takes a village." We got such a village. It's incredible. But I'll go back. There's times where I'll go up and I'll sit on the mezzanine and I'll need a moment and I'll bring some paperwork over. But visually, I look at the families and every one of them have a story. The person that's injured, the family members that are here with them, the caregiving. So we have a story. The good ones have a story. Jose Perales, who was sitting here a few weeks ago, has a story. You all have stories. Well, when you go through this injured community, what I've been able to learn through, when you said reinventing or what's changed, is the lessons I've been taught by those family members, the strength, faith. It happened early on with our community, but it continues to still happen daily when I'm in this building and realizing, oh my gosh, I remember 18 years ago. And I want to tell those people and hug those people. And this is where Lori is great and wonderful. And you guys as a staff are great and wonderful. And you just hug on them and tell them they will get better. And they don't believe you right then and there. And they keep coming back and they keep coming back. And so when I see that dedication and I see that discipline and I see that, it's helped change me from a resolve standpoint, certainly a priority standpoint. I love what I do in business. I 41 years and I'm still having a ball. That's at the hand of having this in conjunction. When I say this, being a part of a mission that's bigger than us, right? And then watching, I think this is probably one of the most impactful. Watching some of the seniors, Blake Browning and Zach Colley and Jason Smoot, Brian Goody, and others, but that have been in the program a while or have come back, or the pay it forward aspect of watching those that have been helped by the foundation, by the donors, and watch them come back either to one of our events or just wheel in the building and being of support. And they don't know how much that means when you see somebody. Then again, they can't do everything, but they can do something, and they're doing something. That is powerful to me. And that changes me. When you start thinking about, because we all have some bad days, right? I don't care if you're Taylor Swift. I don't care if you're Travis Kelce. I don't care who you are. Sometimes it's just tough. I don't care if you don't have a catastrophic injury. Life can be difficult. But this reminder of people coming in and knowing everything, baggage that's on their shoulders, and they're just created that. I'm looking at your pathways to healing that, they have found we've created this path at the TPS, and they're helping us keep it a pathway. And so that's changed me. And it's changed my priorities in life. When I look at, what makes me tick, what I just described to you makes me tick. Now, do I still love seeing a fast car? Yeah, I'm a motorhead. That's still, do I still, like my Oregon football and occasionally my Los Angeles Lakers? Yeah, that still gets me going a little bit, but nothing gets me more going than watching people develop, restore themselves, family members restore themselves. And also the fact that we have all, not just Hal, not just Cody, not just Logan, but we have all created this environment where people can help other people in an environment where they don't have to do everything. They can just do something, and we'll do it together. And again, we're not going to like it when the newly injured comes in tomorrow, but they have a place to come. So that to me is really changed my priorities. And I know it's changed others. So hopefully I answered that question.
Very well.
Greatly, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to speak for you a little bit too, Logan, but we just honestly can't thank you enough for how much you have paid it forward and given back to the community and allowed for us to create that type of space that you were talking about, because I'm sure for him as well, it just, as you've had the change of perspective, it's changed our perspectives as well. So thank you so much, and thank you for coming on and sharing.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank you both for this pathways. I'm a big Rogan guy, right? So I like listening to my Joe too, and you guys will be rivaling here in a couple years, but making yourselves vulnerable too, and doing this outside of what you normally do.
It's definitely outside the normal scope.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it really is, and I think the best part of it from our perspective is we just get to have these conversations, and we get to learn so much along the way. While our speaking might not be the best, we might use filler words a little too much here and there, but just being able to have the experience of learning and trying to get better at it has been amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hal. We appreciate you a lot.
Thank you.
Part 2 coming soon.
Awesome. I like
Have
it.
you back.
All right, gang.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Pathways to Healing, the Perfect Step podcast. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did.
If you found today's episode to be valuable, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, and feel free to leave a review by clicking the link in the description below.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or topics you'd like for us to cover in upcoming episodes, you can go to our website under the tab Pathways to Healing and fill out the form.
We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another engaging conversation giving insight into the paralysis community.
Until then, keep inspiring, stay resilient, and roll on.
These are your hosts, Cody Norman
and Logan Frye,
signing off.